Princess Zara stood at the edge of the great balcony, looking down at the massive arena below. Thousands of beings filled the stone seats, their voices creating a wave of sound that echoed off the high walls. Today was the day she would choose her future husband from the finest warriors in the galaxy. The tradition was old, older than her grandfather's grandfather. Every princess of the Velkan Empire must marry a warrior from their allied worlds. It kept the peace between species and made the bonds between worlds stronger. Zara had known this day would come since she was a child, but now that it was here, her stomach felt tight with worry. "Are you ready, daughter?" Emperor Thane asked as he joined her on the balcony. His voice was deep and strong, like the rumble of distant thunder. "I am ready, father," Zara replied, though she was not sure if that was true. Below them, 12 warriors stood in a line across the arena floor. Each one represented a different world and species. Zara knew she should feel honored that such great fighters had come for her, but instead she felt like a prize to be won. The first warrior was Krell, a Krillian from the ice world of Frost Prime. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, with 4 powerful arms and skin like blue steel. His people were known across the galaxy as the greatest warriors. Krell had never lost a battle, and scars covered his arms like medals of honor. Next to him stood Vex, a Nexari assassin whose pale skin seemed to shimmer in the light. The Nexari could phase their bodies through solid matter for short periods. Vex moved like liquid shadow, and his eyes never seemed to focus on any one thing for long. The third warrior was Gorth, a massive Gorvok berserker. His green hide was thick enough to stop laser fire, and his strength could crush steel with bare hands. When Gorth roared, the sound made the arena walls shake. There were others too. Tau the winged skykin who could fly faster than most ships. Rex the cybernetic mechanoid whose body was half machine. Nyx the crystal-bodied gemkin who could channel energy through his living stone flesh. And then there was Ben. The human stood at the end of the line, looking small next to the alien warriors. He was about 6 feet tall with brown hair and simple military armor. No special abilities. No natural weapons. No cybernetic parts. Just a human male who looked like he might be more comfortable fixing a ship than fighting aliens. Zara found herself staring at him longer than the others. There was something in his eyes, a calm alertness that was different from the others. Where the alien warriors stood proud and fierce, Ben seemed to be watching and learning. "The trials begin," Emperor Thane announced, his voice carrying across the arena through hidden speakers. The first trial was simple strength. Each warrior had to lift a massive stone block and carry it across the arena. Krell went first, his 4 arms making the task look easy. He lifted the block high over his head and walked across like it weighed nothing. Gorth roared as he grabbed the block, his massive muscles bulging. The stone cracked under his grip, but he carried it across successfully. One by one, each warrior completed the task in their own way. Tau used his wings to help support the weight. Rex's mechanical parts whirred as he calculated the perfect grip points. When Ben's turn came, Zara leaned forward. The human walked around the block first, examining it from all sides. He found handholds that others had missed and positioned his feet carefully. Instead of trying to lift the block high like the others, he kept it close to his body and moved with steady, measured steps. He was the slowest, but he never stumbled. He never stopped. When he set the block down at the finish line, he was breathing hard but still standing strong. "Interesting," Zara whispered to herself. The second trial tested speed and agility. Warriors had to race through a course filled with obstacles, traps, and moving platforms. Vex phased through walls and barriers, finishing in record time. Tau simply flew over most obstacles. Ben ran the course like any normal human would, climbing over walls instead of phasing through them, jumping across gaps instead of flying over them. But he did something the others did not. He helped. Halfway through the course, Gorth stepped on a hidden pressure plate and a net dropped from above, tangling his massive form. The other warriors ran past, focused only on their own times. Ben stopped. "What are you doing?" Gorth growled as Ben began working to free him from the net. "Helping," Ben said simply, his hands working quickly at the knots. "I do not need help from a weak human." Ben paused and looked up at the big alien. "Maybe not. But you need help from someone with small hands who can untie knots quickly." Gorth stared at him for a moment, then grunted. "Continue." Ben freed the Gorvok warrior and then resumed his own run. He finished last, but when the times were announced, nobody cheered louder than Gorth. The third trial was combat. Warriors faced off against arena champions in single battle. This was where each species showed their greatest strengths. Krell fought with 4 weapons at once, his arms moving in perfect coordination. Vex used his phasing ability to appear and disappear like a ghost. Tal struck from above with lightning speed. When Ben's turn came, he faced a robotic opponent designed to be faster and stronger than any human. The crowd expected a quick defeat. Instead, Ben did something unexpected. He talked to the robot. "Nice moves," he said as he dodged a strike. "Your programming is really impressive." The robot, confused by this response, hesitated for just a moment. Ben used that moment to duck under its arm and touch a manual shutdown switch on its back. The machine powered down immediately. "Combat is not always about fighting," Ben said to the crowd. "Sometimes it is about understanding your opponent." The arena was quiet for a long moment, then erupted in surprised cheering. The fourth trial tested tactical thinking. Warriors were given a holographic battle scenario and asked to plan an attack on a heavily defended fortress. Most chose direct assault plans that relied on their species' natural abilities. Ben studied the scenario for a long time, longer than any other warrior. When he finally presented his plan, it was completely different. "I would not attack the fortress at all," he said. "What?" The trial judge looked confused. "You must capture the fortress to win." "The goal is to win the battle," Ben corrected politely. "The fortress controls the water supply for the enemy army. Instead of attacking the walls, I would redirect the river that feeds their wells. Without water, they would have to abandon the fortress within days. No battle needed." Emperor Thane leaned forward in his seat. "Clever," he admitted. The fifth trial was about honor. Each warrior was given a choice between personal glory and helping others. A fake emergency was created where they could either win the trial or save simulated civilians. Most warriors chose a middle path, trying to do both. Some chose personal victory. Tal and 2 others chose to save the civilians and accept defeat. Ben also chose to save the civilians, but he did something more. He organized the other warriors who had made the same choice, dividing the rescue work efficiently so they could save more people in less time. "Leadership," Zara murmured, watching him coordinate the rescue effort. As the sun began to set, the trials moved to their final phase. This was the test of adaptability. Warriors were placed in a series of puzzles and challenges that required them to learn and adjust quickly. The challenges were designed to be impossible for any single species to solve using only their natural abilities. Krell's strength was useless against a puzzle that required delicate touch. Vex's phasing could not help him with a riddle that needed deep thinking. Ben struggled too, but he did something different. Instead of getting frustrated when his human abilities were not enough, he watched how the other warriors approached their challenges. He learned from their failures and successes. When he faced a test that required incredible speed, he remembered how Tal used wind currents to move faster. Ben could not fly, but he could use the same air currents to help him run faster than any human should be able to. When he needed to lift something too heavy for human strength, he used leverage and physics like a Krillian engineer had shown earlier. For every challenge, Ben found a way to adapt, to use lessons learned from others combined with human creativity. As the final trial ended and night fell over the arena, Zara realized she had spent most of the day watching the human warrior. Not because he was the strongest or fastest or most skilled, but because he was the most interesting. Every other warrior had performed exactly as expected. They used their natural gifts to overcome challenges in predictable ways. But Ben had surprised everyone, including himself, by finding new solutions to old problems. The trials are complete. Emperor Thane announced. Tomorrow, Princess Zara will announce her choice. As the warriors filed out of the arena, Ben looked up at the royal balcony. For just a moment, his eyes met Zara's. He nodded politely, then followed the others toward their quarters. That night, Zara could not sleep. She stood on her balcony, looking at the moons of her homeworld and thinking about what she had seen. Tomorrow, she would have to choose the warrior who would become her husband and the future father of her children. The choice should be easy. Krell was the obvious selection, strong, skilled, from a powerful allied world. Her father expected her to choose the Krillian warrior. Her advisors had already prepared treaties assuming that choice. But Zara found herself thinking about the human who had helped others, who had solved problems in new ways, who had treated everyone with respect even when they looked down on him. Tomorrow would bring difficult decisions. Tonight, she could only wonder what kind of future each choice might create. The princess of the Velkan Empire stood alone under alien stars, knowing that her decision would affect not just her life, but the fate of worlds. The great arena was packed once again. Representatives from 12 different worlds sat in their designated sections, each group wearing the colors of their home planet. The air buzzed with excitement and nervous energy as everyone waited for Princess Zara to make her choice. Emperor Thane sat on his golden throne, his face showing no emotion. But Zara could see the tension in his shoulders. She knew he expected her to choose Krell, the mighty Krillian warrior. It would be the safe choice, the expected choice, the choice that would strengthen their most important military alliance. Zara wore her ceremonial dress of deep blue silk with silver threads that caught the morning light. Her crown, passed down through generations of Velkan princesses, felt heavier than usual on her head. In a few moments, her words would change the course of galactic politics. The 12 warriors stood in formation on the arena floor. Each wore their finest ceremonial armor and carried the weapons of their people. They looked magnificent, like heroes from ancient legends. All except Ben, who wore simple human military dress uniform with no weapons at all. He looked calm but nervous, occasionally glancing up at the royal platform where Zara sat. Citizens of the Velkan Empire and honored guests from across the galaxy, Emperor Thane announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the arena. Today my daughter will choose her husband from these brave warriors. Her choice will bind our worlds in friendship and create a new royal bloodline. Zara stood slowly, feeling the weight of thousands of eyes upon her. She had practiced this moment many times, but now her heart was beating so fast she could hear it in her ears. I have watched these warriors compete, she said, her voice clear and strong despite her nerves. Each one has shown great skill and honor. Each one would bring strength to our empire. She paused and looked at each warrior in turn. Krell stood proudest of all, his 4 arms crossed confidently. He had never doubted that she would choose him. But I have made my decision based not just on strength or skill, but on the qualities that will help our empire grow and prosper in the years to come. Zara stepped forward to the edge of the platform. The arena became completely silent. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. She walked down the ceremonial steps that led to the arena floor. Protocol demanded that she approach the warrior of her choice and speak the ancient words that would seal their engagement. Every step echoed in the silence. Zara walked past the section where the Krillian delegation sat. She could feel their confident smiles without looking at them. She walked past Vex, the deadly Nexari assassin. She walked past Gorth, the massive Gorvok berserker. She walked past each magnificent alien warrior until she stood directly in front of Ben. The human looked shocked. His mouth fell open slightly and his eyes went wide. Behind him, she could hear confused murmurs starting to rise from the crowd. This is the human I will wed, Zara announced, her voice carrying across the arena. For a moment, the silence continued. Then chaos erupted. Krell roared in fury, his 4 fists clenched. This is an insult. I am the greatest warrior here. I demand satisfaction. The Krillian delegation rose to their feet as one, shouting protests in their harsh language. Other alien delegations began arguing among themselves. The Gorvok ambassador stood and bellowed his displeasure. Emperor Thane's face had gone pale, then red with anger. He stood quickly, his ceremonial robes flowing behind him as he strode to Zara's side. "Daughter, what are you doing?" he hissed in her ear, trying to keep his voice low enough that the crowd could not hear. "I am choosing my husband, father, as is my right according to our laws," Zara replied calmly. "You cannot choose the human. Think of the political consequences." Zara looked at Ben, who still appeared stunned by her choice. "I have thought of little else, father. But I have also thought of the future of our empire." Krell stepped forward, his massive frame towering over both Zara and Ben. "Princess, you have been deceived by this weak creature. I challenge the human to single combat for the right to your hand." "Challenge accepted," Ben said quietly. Zara spun to face him. "No. You do not have to fight him." Ben looked at her with gentle eyes. "Princess, I appreciate your choice, but I cannot let it stand if I cannot defend it. If I am to be your husband, I must prove that I deserve that honor." "The human speaks wisely," Krell laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. "Tomorrow at dawn, we fight. To the death." "No." Zara protested. "The law says combat to yield, not to death." But Krell was already walking away, followed by the angry Krillian delegation. Other alien groups were filing out of the arena, their faces showing disgust and anger. Emperor Thane grabbed Zara's arm. "Fix this," he commanded. "Choose the Krillian or we will have war instead of weddings." That night, the royal palace was in chaos. Emergency meetings were called. Ambassadors made angry demands. 3 different species threatened to withdraw from their alliances with the Velkan Empire. Zara found herself locked in conference after conference with her father's advisors. They all said the same thing: she must change her choice or risk destroying everything her family had built. "The human is brave, princess," said General Vox, the head of Velkan military forces. "But bravery alone cannot protect an empire. We need the strength of the Krillians." "What you call strength, I call dependence," Zara replied firmly. "We have grown too comfortable relying on old alliances and traditional thinking." "And what does the human offer instead?" demanded Ambassador Rix, who handled relations with the ice worlds. "Change," Zara said simply. "Growth. The ability to see problems in new ways." "Pretty words," General Vox said with a snort. "But words do not win wars." "Perhaps," Zara admitted. "But they can prevent them." The arguing continued late into the night, but Zara refused to change her mind. Finally, exhausted and frustrated, her father's advisors left her alone. Zara made her way through the quiet palace halls to the guest quarters where Ben was staying. She found him on the balcony outside his room, looking up at the stars. "Are you having second thoughts?" she asked as she joined him. Ben turned to her with a slight smile. "About a dozen times in the last hour," he admitted. "Princess, I have to ask why you chose me. I know I am not the strongest or fastest or most skilled warrior here." Zara looked out at the city lights spread below them. "When I was young, my grandmother told me a story about 2 trees. One tree was tall and strong with thick bark that could survive any storm. The other tree was smaller and more flexible. And?" Ben prompted. "When the great hurricane came, the strong tree stood firm against the wind until it snapped and fell. The flexible tree bent with the storm and survived." Ben nodded slowly. "You think change is coming?" "I know it is," Zara said firmly. "The galaxy is not the same place it was when my great-grandfather made these alliances. We cannot keep doing things the old ways forever. But what if your father is right? What if I cannot protect you or your people? Zara turned to face him fully. Ben, in all the trials, you never once tried to be something you were not. You used your mind, your creativity, your compassion. You helped others even when it cost you personally. Those are nice qualities in a person, Ben said. But are they enough in a prince? Before Zara could answer, alarm bells began ringing throughout the palace. Emergency lights flashed red across the city skyline. General Vox burst onto the balcony, his face grim. Princess! We are under attack. Nexury ships have appeared around the planet. They are demanding that their representative be named your husband or they will destroy our capital city. Zara felt her blood turn cold. The Nexury were known for their pride and their cruelty. Vex's elimination from consideration must have angered them more than anyone had expected. How many ships? Ben asked, immediately focused on the tactical situation. 12 battle cruisers with full-phase technology, General Vox replied. Our weapons cannot touch them when they phase. They can attack us, but we cannot fight back effectively. Where is my father? Zara demanded. In the war room with the full military council. Princess, he wants you to consider accepting the Nexury demand. Never, Zara said firmly. Ben was staring out at the sky where flashes of light showed the enemy ships moving above the atmosphere. General, what is your standard response to phase-capable enemies? We try to predict where they will rematerialize and target those locations, General Vox admitted. But the Nexury are too fast and too unpredictable. We have never found an effective counter to their tactics. Ben was quiet for a long moment, his mind clearly working on the problem. Then he looked at Zara with determination in his eyes. Princess, I may not be able to defeat Krell in single combat tomorrow, he said. But maybe I can help save your world tonight. What do you mean? Zara asked. I mean that humans might see this problem differently than Vulcans do, Ben replied. Will you let me try? Zara looked at this calm, thoughtful man who had just volunteered to help defend a planet that was not his own against enemies that terrified seasoned warriors. Yes, she said without hesitation. I will. As they ran through the palace toward the war room, Zara realized that this crisis would either prove her choice was right or destroy everything she cared about. The fate of her world now rested in the hands of the human she had chosen over all the mighty warriors of the galaxy. The war room was filled with smoke and panic when Zara and Ben arrived. Emperor Thane stood over a holographic display showing the positions of Nexury ships around their planet. Red warning lights flashed everywhere as reports came in from across the capital city. Father, what is the situation? Zara asked as they entered. Emperor Thane looked up, his face grave. The Nexury have issued an ultimatum. You have 1 hour to accept their representative Vex as your husband, or they will begin bombing our cities. General Vox pointed to the display. They have 12 battle cruisers in perfect attack formation. Our defense platforms cannot lock onto them when they phase through solid matter. Ben studied the tactical display carefully. The Nexury ships were moving in complex patterns around the planet, appearing and disappearing as they shifted between normal space and their phase dimension. General, how long can they stay phased? Ben asked. No more than 10 minutes at a time, General Vox replied. But that is more than enough time to attack and escape before we can respond. What happens when they come out of phase? They become solid again for approximately 30 seconds while their systems recharge. Ben nodded thoughtfully. And during that time, they are vulnerable to normal weapons? Yes, but the timing is impossible to predict. They can choose when and where to rematerialize. Emperor Thane slammed his fist on the table. We have faced the Nexury before. There is no effective defense against their tactics. Our only choice is to accept their demands or watch our cities burn. Ben was quiet for several moments, staring at the display. Then he looked up at the assembled military leaders. What if we stop trying to fight them and start trying to understand them, he said. What do you mean? General Vox asked. Every species has patterns, things they do without thinking about it. The Nexari are proud, aggressive, used to enemies who react with fear. What if we give them something completely unexpected? Emperor Thane frowned. You want to surrender? No, Ben said with a slight smile. I want to invite them to dinner. The room erupted in shocked voices. Several military officers began talking at once, their words overlapping in confusion. Silence. Emperor Thane commanded. Human, explain yourself quickly. We do not have time for games. Ben stepped closer to the holographic display. The Nexari attacked because they felt dishonored when Vex was not chosen. This is about pride, not conquest. If we treat this like a military invasion, they will respond like invaders. And if we treat it differently? Zara asked, beginning to understand. Then maybe they will respond differently too, Ben replied. General, can you open a communication channel to their fleet? General Vox looked at Emperor Thane, who nodded grimly. Channel open. Ben stepped forward to the communication panel. Commander of the Nexari fleet, this is Ben Torres, representative of Earth and chosen husband of Princess Zara. A harsh voice responded immediately. Human, you have 1 hour to renounce your claim to the princess or we will destroy your adopted world. Commander, I understand your anger, Ben said calmly. Your warrior Vex fought with great skill and honor. He deserved better recognition than he received. There was a pause. You acknowledge our superiority? I acknowledge that Vex is a formidable warrior who would have been a worthy choice for any princess. Another pause, longer this time. Then you will step aside. I cannot do that, Ben said. But I can offer something else. Tomorrow there will be a great feast to celebrate the princess's choice. I formally invite Vex and your entire fleet to attend as honored guests. The communication channel was silent for nearly a minute. Then the Nexari commander spoke again, his voice confused. You invite us to celebrate your victory over us? I invite you to celebrate the strength and honor of all the warriors who competed, Ben corrected. Including Vex, who showed courage and skill that impressed everyone who watched. This is a trick, the commander said suspiciously. No trick, Ben replied. Just recognition that great warriors deserve great respect, even when they cannot be chosen. The channel went silent. On the tactical display, the Nexari ships had stopped their attack patterns and were holding position. General Vox stared at Ben in amazement. You stopped their attack with an invitation to dinner? Maybe, Ben said. The Nexari value honor above all else. Fighting enemies who fear them brings no honor. But being recognized as great warriors by those who defeated them might. Emperor Thane looked skeptical. And if you are wrong? If they attack anyway? Ben met his eyes steadily. Then at least we tried something new instead of repeating old failures. The communication panel crackled to life again. Human Torres, your invitation is noted. But the honor of our warrior must still be satisfied. Vex demands single combat with you for the right to the princess. Ben glanced at Zara, then back at the panel. Tell Vex that I accept his challenge, but I propose different terms. What terms? Not combat to yield or death, but combat to demonstrate skill. Let both of us show our abilities, and let the assembled warriors judge who fought with greater honor. This time the pause was even longer. Finally, the Nexari commander spoke again. Vex accepts these terms. We will attend your feast, but only after he has proven his superiority. Understood, Ben said. And Commander? Thank you for giving me the chance to prove that humans can be honorable opponents. The channel closed. The red warning light stopped flashing throughout the war room. Incredible, General Vox muttered. They have withdrawn to a safe distance and are requesting landing coordinates for their diplomatic shuttle. Emperor Thane stared at Ben with new respect in his eyes. How did you know that would work? I did not know, Ben admitted. But humans learned long ago that most conflicts come from misunderstanding and wounded pride. Sometimes the best way to end a fight is to help your opponent feel respected. The next morning, the arena was packed once again, but the atmosphere was completely different. Instead of celebrating a princess's wedding choice, the crowd was watching to see if the human who had stopped a war could also win a fight. Vex entered the arena first, moving like liquid shadow. His phase technology was built into his armor, allowing him to shift in and out of solid matter at will. He was faster than any human could ever be. Ben entered wearing simple combat gear with no special technology. He looked small and ordinary next to the alien warrior. The terms are agreed, announced the arena judge. Combat will continue until both fighters have demonstrated their abilities to the satisfaction of the assembled warriors. Victory will be judged on skill, honor, and tactical thinking. Vex immediately phased and disappeared. Ben stood calmly in the center of the arena, turning slowly in a circle. "I know you are here, Vex," Ben called out. "Your people are watching. Show them the skills that made you their champion." Vex materialized behind Ben and struck, but Ben was already moving. Instead of trying to avoid the attack completely, Ben used the Nexary's momentum against him, grabbing his arm and redirecting the strike. For the next 10 minutes, they danced around each other. Vex would phase and attack, Ben would adapt and counter. It became clear that Ben could not win through strength or speed, but he could match Vex's tactical thinking. "You fight well for a human," Vex said during a brief pause. "You fight with great honor for any species," Ben replied. In the end, both fighters were exhausted but neither had been truly defeated. Ben raised his hand first. "The victory goes to Vex," he announced. "His skills are superior to mine." Vex stared at him in shock. "But you held your own against me. Why do you yield?" "Because this was never about winning or losing," Ben said. "It was about showing that humans and Nexary can fight with mutual respect." The crowd erupted in cheers. Vex, moved by Ben's gesture, raised Ben's hand alongside his own. "The human fights with great honor," Vex announced. "He is worthy of the princess." That evening, the great feast brought together representatives from all 12 worlds. Krell, the proud Krillian warrior, approached Ben during the celebration. "Human, I still believe I would have been a stronger choice for the princess," Krell said. "You probably would have," Ben agreed. "But strength is not the only quality needed in a prince. What other qualities matter?" Ben looked around the room at the mixed groups of aliens who were talking and laughing together. "The ability to help others see past their differences. The wisdom to know when to fight and when to make peace. The patience to listen before acting." Krell followed his gaze and nodded slowly. "Perhaps the princess chose more wisely than I first believed." When the formal ceremony began, Zara and Ben stood together before the assembled representatives. Princess Zara wore the traditional golden robes of her people, while Ben wore a simple blue uniform that represented Earth. "Do you, Princess Zara of the Velkan Empire, take this human as your husband and partner?" Emperor Thane asked. "I do," Zara said clearly. "I choose Ben not despite our differences, but because of them." In a galaxy where every species has perfected one way of being, humans offer something new, the ability to adapt, to grow, to bring others together. "Do you, Ben Torres of Earth, take this princess as your wife and commit yourself to the welfare of her people?" Ben looked out at the crowd of alien faces watching him. "I do. I promise to help the Velkan Empire grow stronger not through conquest, but through understanding. To help build bridges between worlds instead of walls." When they kissed to seal their union, the celebration that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Warriors from 12 different worlds stood together, raising their glasses to toast not just a marriage, but a new beginning. In the months that followed, requests came from across the galaxy. Other species wanted human advisors, human diplomats, human teachers. They had seen what one human could accomplish and wanted to learn these skills for themselves. Zara and Ben's wedding had become more than a political alliance. It had become a symbol of hope that different peoples could work together to create something greater than any one species could achieve alone. Standing together on their balcony under alien stars, Ben and Zara looked out at a galaxy full of new possibilities. "Do you ever regret your choice?" Ben asked. Zara smiled and took his hand. "Every day I am more certain it was right. You did not just win my heart, Ben Torres. You showed everyone that humanity's greatest strength is not in war, but in hope." In the distance, ships from many worlds came and went, carrying humans to new homes among the stars, and aliens to Earth to learn new ways of thinking. The princess had chosen her human, and through that choice, two galaxies had chosen each other.